KG Barbecue.
What is it?
KG Barbecue.
KG
It's
Barbecue.
recorded.
Where's that?
No, it's okay. Just, we'll put that
You
in.
just got a free
It's,
plug.
this is not a sponsored ad.
Yeah.
It's on East Side.
Alright, it is 5:32 on Monday, April 28th. We are at City Hall, conference room, first floor. And this is, I'm gonna call to order the April meeting of the Downtown Business Improvement District. Julia, would you mind helping with roll call?
Lawrence Friedman,
Present.
Jasvir Malik. He is not present. Tomas Izaguirre. Wait, was Tomas replaced?
Tomas was replaced.
Okay. Julia
Okay.
Aronofsky, I am present. Ila Torres,
Present.
Jack Richards,
Present.
Justin Heather,
Present.
and then, I'm sorry,
Dan Davila.
Dan Davila?
Yeah, I'm present.
Okay.
Thank you and welcome, Dan. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you stepping in. I look forward to working with you and all that we do here. Citizen comments, I don't see any citizens here other than those of us that are here on the board and with the city staff, but we'll leave citizens' comments open until the end of the meeting. Item 4, approval of minutes of prior meeting held on March 12, 2025. You have your minutes in the packet, I believe, and if anyone has any edits, comments, or motions, please let me know.
I wasn't there, so I'll allow someone else to make the motion if they want.
I'll move to approve the minutes of March 12th as drafted. Do I have a
Second.
Got a second, motion, a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5, discussion items. Item 5A is update discussion on recent downtown matters and any other items. In terms of downtown, I'll just provide a quick update on the tours. We have completed, or I think there might be a couple little minor things that need to be done on the Zaragoza Street project, but we are in the process of going out to bid on the It Street project, which the street, sort of the street realignment and the sidewalks. We are waiting on the final contract, I believe, for the It Street signs, a neon sign that would direct folks down It Street, as well as the wayfinding signage. We are near completion. We have an artist that's designing that sort of "You Are Here" map. That's going to be sort of slip sheeted in, be backlit, be really nice. So I'm hoping that those projects will be wrapped up soon and move forward with some groundbreaking is probably not the right word, but we'll start getting more. I mean, in terms of what we've been doing downtown. We've also, go ahead.
So, my question is, you mentioned It Street, is that both San Agustin and Itugrita Street, or is it San Agustin?
Just It Street at this point. And so
Okay,
what it is, you know, basically from the checkpoint over to either, I can't remember if it stops at House of Whiskey or if it's the next block as well, but they're sort of redesigning the streets, which are very wide there. Gonna put in some planter boxes because it's very open, so it's very hot, sunny, to put some trees in there, to provide some shade for walkers. I believe it will result in a net loss of one parking spot, which was a kind of a bone of contention because of parking downtown, but some of the other work we've done in other plazas has increased the number of parking spots by 9 or 10, so you know we're still on a net positive. But the idea being it'll slow down a little bit of the traffic, especially late night on Friday, Saturday when folks are down there, and be a little bit more walkable in terms of,
So that would be from Santa Ursula to San Agustin,
I
right?
believe so.
Okay.
I'd have to, it's been
Yeah.
probably a year since we looked at those plans. I think those will be at the next meeting. But, you know, that will hopefully move forward very soon.
Good.
And, on the it sign, I know there was some debate on how to get that into budget. What was the final design? Did it include the pylon or?
I killed the LED screen.
Okay,
And, so they had an LED screen that they had designed for it, which was, we'll call it $40,000. And when they
Just that.
designed it, it was just one side. So that if you were coming from the other side,
Right.
you wouldn't be able to see it. So what they wanna do is charge another 40 to put the LED sign on the other side, and it was like, no, we're staying in budget, we got rid of it, and made it a little more simple.
but it can be added in the future if funds become available.
Absolutely.
To be fair, I've seen the sign. It's also, it's very mid-century modern, right? Like it's very seventies retro, but modernized. That LED sign didn't fit, like,
No.
just as a person who would be walking down, it's a really cool sign, then it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the rest of the sign, and I was like, we're gonna pay $80,000 to ruin this beautiful sign.
Right?
Just
Yes,
Side
absolutely. And if you haven't had a chance, across from House of Whiskey, if you were to go and have a drink and look towards the west, there's a beautiful facade improvement project that is currently being finalized by the artist. I believe there'll be a groundbreaking or unveiling, even though it's unveiled, I guess, on the 8th of May.
That's a 2-week job, right?
It was beautiful. And the church has
I was
approved
there
two
with the
more.
artists, yeah.
And the board has approved 2 more
Uh-huh.
facade improvements, and we were talking about it last month, and it sounds like there may be more money available for additional facade
That'd be
improvements,
great.
so. I was there last week for a tour of downtown, and I had my margarita and my ceviche and was looking at this, and everyone was commenting on, oh, wow, just
Mhm.
totally changes the vibe down here, and it really does. I mean,
It
just
does.
that, it's a lot of color, but you know, to me, it's a
Well-
splash of color for all of downtown.
Right.
And it was really well done. The artist did a fabulous job.
I think that something like this, I mean, finally, it's starting to happen. Things are starting to materialize, but throughout the building throughout our downtown, there's so many streets that we can use all these murals coming out, and they bring up the street. Now all we need is police and lighting, and that'd be great.
Do you know if the murals, I know there's been murals done in the downtown that are obviously high up, so that probably isn't a concern, but this one that you're referencing is on the street. Is there a protective coating on there for any form of, like, if someone tries to graffiti it? They do make coatings, that's why I asked.
That I do not know.
Because it'll definitely happen. We have new groups that are downtown, Julian, that are marking the buildings now in red. And it's just unbelievable. I'd love to catch him just to cut off his finger. But it's unbelievable. And, but anyway, I thought at some point, but it was the artist's emails address, I guess, on the bottom right. I said, I can't believe that they already did this here, but it was.
Yeah,
It was
their signature. Yeah, that's something, I don't know, at the next TERS meeting, it's worth the investment. It's not that pricey, it's pretty much like a clear coat that goes over it. We use it on certain buildings that we do, because they get typically tagged commonly, because it makes it so easy to take off.
Right. So you can't spray paint that stuff?
You can, it makes it really easy to
Easy
take
to
off.
come off. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Very good.
So when they
idea.
spray paint over it, you all
Yeah.
just can remove it?
without damaging the art.
Right.
So,
Any other comments, discussions regarding the downtown updates?
No, I saw it this morning, it made me hit my brakes and looks beautiful.
Awesome.
And I like it eye level, but there is that issue, of course.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah, it was very funny. He sent me the photo and I immediately responded, "Where are you?"
Right across from your building.
That was the best, that's the best compliment. I was like, "You're not in Laredo, where are you?"
In fact, I was, and the ceviche was great. Item 5B, discussion regarding nonprofit formation status and all other matters incident thereto. Just by way of update, I heard from our lawyer And the nonprofit has been registered with the Secretary of State. The application is pending for the 501c3 status with the feds. And hopefully, within a month, we should have a thumbs up, hopefully, for the approval of that as a 501c3, so it can do fundraising and apply for grants as a nonprofit. Item 5C, discussion regarding WebCAD CLMD 2025 estimated values and all other matters incident thereto. This was a handout in your packet, I think everyone saw it. This came from the Weld County Appraiser's Office, provided to me as well as the company that we hired to work on the assessments for us. It's a preliminary number. The message from from Bobby was that it will be a couple months before these are finalized to be conservative in your estimates, but give you an idea generally of where the district stands. And in terms of, and I'm, again, a lawyer, not a banker, so there's probably bankers and finance people here who'll tell me I'm completely wrong, but my back of the envelope estimate was approximately $475,000 in income to the bid via the assessment. Based on the commercial real estate numbers.
That are currently unprocessed.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, we'll see where the final numbers are, you know, give or take, but, you know, it is looking like it could be collected this year and allow us to actually start to make a difference. When there is graffiti, we can have our folks go down there and take care of it. I know that there are some street cleaning done by the city right now in downtown, but it allow us to take care of additional services that are necessary, and importantly, the lighting as well as the maintenance of the TERS improvements that are going in. So if you have a break in the irrigation system that the TERS is installed, TERS doesn't have that maintenance ability. We would take that over and we'd be able to fix that. So, you know, that's really where it stands. I want to bring it up and provide this information to the board. Again, it's not final, but I wanted to let you all know that we have received this. Once it does become final, we will make sure I get that around to everyone. The Tax Utility Service, which is the group that's going to help us with the collection of the assessments, was not able to be here. Was actually able to be here last Monday when I didn't realize it was, you know, the Easter Monday, because we had Good Friday off, and so my bad. He had that reserved. Today he had to be in Dallas, so he was unavailable, but I'll work with him to make sure that he's able to attend our May meeting once we all sort of work together and figure out what the right date is for us.
Or maybe we can have just a special meeting for him.
We could,
You know,
absolutely.
We can make it a point just to have a special meeting, and maybe we can meet up. It's important.
No, absolutely, and I'd like him to help all of us understand the process. I have a 30,000 foot view. I got a pretty good idea,
Right.
I think. And then, you know, you get someone who's actually done it, you know, for decades. They know exactly what they're doing. It's a family-owned business. He took it over, you know, from his parents, so he knows this more. He's probably forgotten more than we'll ever know about it. So we all want to hear from him, and I want to make sure everyone can hear how the process works. And I know there's been questions about, well, what if there's a challenge? And, you know, what if we get a call? You know, I'm hoping that means we just forward that person to him. I'm hoping, but I'll work with everyone to make sure we have a date. And if that date doesn't work with him, great idea, Larry. What we'll do is we'll set up a special meeting when he's available. So, and we'll try to get as many people here as possible to hear from him.
Okay.
Any questions before we move on to the action items? Okay. Item 6A, action items. Discussion with possible action to seek reappointment by the City of Laredo City Council of those directors with terms expiring in June 2025. So I think I've discussed this before. Amber and I had a very good discussion about this when we started the bid, you know, sort of lay the groundwork for the legal requirements. And one of the things that we discovered was that everyone was appointed at once. And so everyone's terms, other than mine, because I was late bloomer, I guess, everyone's term expires in June of this year, except for me. I think I have 2 more years left. In addition to the fact that everyone expires at once, we also have the matter that none of them are staggered, and so that I'll work with Amber to figure out what the correct number is. I don't even remember what we
I know.
had talked about, 2 versus 3 years or whatnot. But we do need to go back to the city council to have that formal reappointment. So I'd love to put everyone on the spot and say, please join me again. If you don't want to be a part of that, feel free to tell
Well,
me.
if you have new
but-
blood and if you need, if you have somebody that you guys want in and you need someone to move over and let someone else come in, I'd be more than happy to give up my spot.
We have 2 open seats too.
Yeah.
So in addition to
Right.
the 5 of us or the 6 of us, see, I'm not good at math. The 6 of us and Jay, there's still 2 more seats. There's 9 board seats.
And like I said before, the other people that, as far as my strike rules, come into play, we need bodies here, we need people here, people that are really gonna be involved. This is just so important for our downtown. If they can't be involved, bye.
Yeah.
And I think that, with this that you have to fill in, who knows how, you said you have 2 seats that need to be filled in. I think that, we have to appoint somebody in here, get somebody in here,
Yeah.
Especially now, with the whole economy, the way what's going on right now, these are opportunities to sit back and we're buyers in this particular market, we buy funerals and sell weddings and this funeral. So, but it's also a time to sit back and let's go ahead and start strategizing, get things rolling now while it's really, really slow. I think so. And people that I've talked to are finally realizing, nothing is free. Nothing is free here. So it's gonna cost something here, regardless, but it has to be done. Otherwise downtown is just gonna be deteriorating, as it is. And I know I'm Mr. Daddy Downer, but I'm talking about all this all the time, but they're starting to break the windows again. They're starting to break more windows, and we're the first ones to scream bloody murder, but we have several buildings that they broke the windows again. So, we have to do something sooner than later. But anyway, I think that, as far as the parameters are concerned, it has to be someone within our district or someone that works for, like Dan, or.
They can be appointed by
they
a
can-
property owner.
Okay, by the.
No, they don't even have to work for them, they can be appointed.
Okay.
Like, for example,
Yeah,
it can be someone's
Yeah, yeah.
attorney.
Right,
That,
Right.
they appoint as
Okay.
their agent.
Okay. All right.
So I would, and anybody we'll have a motion, a second, and then discussion, so if anybody wants to back out, but I would move to ask the city council to reappoint our current board for the terms to be determined in conjunction with the city legal department in terms of the staggering. Again, I can't remember whether it was 2 and 3 or 2 and 4.
So that's
to make
changing
sure.
from the original.
The original was
Because
just
I think it was
4
4 years,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And so, in order to stagger, because it wasn't staggered at the start, we'll go ahead and stagger it now, so we don't get back to this in 4 years where we have 90% of the experience and the institutional knowledge technically aging off. And if they don't get reappointed, sort of reinvents the wheel, and so I'm hoping to preserve that.
I would second that. So I'm assuming what city, the attorney would say is, appoint certain people for 2 and certain people for 4, so that.
Yeah, that's what Amber and I
I
had
don't
talked
know.
about, but I have to look at my
Yeah, I'm
notes
trying to
from
look at it right now.
a couple of years ago, but it would be basically we would take, I think there's 6.
Mhm.
So we take 3 seats and give them 2 years, 3 seats, give them 4 years. Not saying that those with 2 couldn't come back for
Mhm.
another 4 years.
Yeah.
But that way we have the
That's how you would have those staggered moving forward. Yeah, I think that's actually how it was set up originally, and just what happened is it went dormant, and then to reactivate it happened.
Yeah, just point for a point.
And they just appointed, they didn't appoint a stagger
Yeah.
system.
You have an interest in.
So I would second that.
Any other discussion? Anybody not want to be on here? You don't have to do it on the record. You can tell me later, that's fine as well. But, I would appreciate, I would appreciate everyone's being here, In fact, we've had, this year has been really good because I feel like we've had a lot where we're not worrying about hitting a quorum, which is when we first started this process. It was,
Mhm.
all right, Larry, call somebody, call Jay, or, Julian, call Larry and see where he is and how close he is. And now I feel like we're usually at 5, maybe 6, and so, feel a little more comfortable that we're moving forward. And again, hopefully we can get some additional folks on here and beef up the staff, so.
Okay.
Seeing no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, motion passes. Item 6B, discussion with possible action with respect to recommendations on the vacant building ordinance of the city of Laredo, including enforcement or potential modification or amendment of such ordinance. Julian, do you wanna lay the groundwork?
So yes, the vacant building ordinance was originally brought about years ago. I think it was back in like 2021, with the intent of it being a mechanism of making a database for vacant buildings, where obviously there's a cost to getting all that information. So the way the intended structure was to be is, if you self-report as vacant or not, we then start creating a database of what's vacant. If you're not self-reporting, you have about a year to self-report, and if not, you would be fined for not reporting. The idea of that fine going into the cost of the city having to send someone to, figure out if it's vacant or not. That was the original intent when it was brought about and how it was propositioned to individuals. I was one of those people that was notified that the city was working on something like this. What it essentially became,
Notified?
sorry,
Notified?
what do you mean by
You
notified?
said you were notified that this was
Yes.
brought to the city?
I'm sorry, that the city contacted us, certain property owners, and certain, like, for example, I think they included, Main Street in this whole decision-making process about figuring out how that ordinance would look. What was eventually adopted by council, I don't know how it got to that. I don't remember it ever being proposed the way it was. I do specifically even remember jokingly making a comment saying, if this turns into a ordinance, it's just a bunch of teeth, I'm gonna be the first one protesting, and yelling from the top of the building that it is completely unfair. And that's essentially what it became, is the city turned it into what was intentionally meant to be a form of economic development by collecting data of knowing which properties were vacant and not vacant,
Right.
to essentially a stick to penalize property owners that, I can't speak on behalf of every property owner, but at least the ones that I know, are actively trying to lease their building.
Mhm.
And right now, there is no carve-out for property owners trying to actively lease their building. If your property is vacant, you get fined for it being vacant. And I think, as this
Ridiculous.
board knows, and probably every property owner downtown, we are trying to lease.
Everybody's
And
trying to
for
lease.
pennies on the dollar, and we're still not getting
Well,
tenants.
one of the problems that we have, and I think it's an eyesore, it's just absolutely horrible.
Justin?
No, this man right over here. So I see him, I see Simon, okay? And we have the corner building, which would be the southeast corner of Hidalgo and Convent. Every single window and door is boarded because it's been broken over and over and over. They defecate right there in front. It's urinating here, and breaking the windows to 6 people, you know, I saw him last week, I videotaped him, okay? He's mentally unstable, this guy. But the thing is that, for a lot of these buildings, the tenant is saying, I'm not gonna pay for it anymore. It's $480 a window. You know how many times we've changed the windows? They're very expensive.
And they're paying rent of $2,000 a month, maybe.
If that much.
Yeah.
Okay, if that much. If that much. And we're talking 20,000 square foot buildings, you know, and it's, 20,000 will make $4,000 on that building. And they're just not gonna do it. And so that building is leased. The other buildings, they broke the windows, they're not leased. And the only thing that came out of all of this, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And that's just one of the things that I've been fighting since the old Aggie days with Carlos Verrial. And that was the valuation of our properties in the downtown area versus all the other properties in Laredo. So if here with our downtown, if we have this particular ordinance that went into effect this year, let it be for the whole city. Why just downtown? What is this with downtown that all they want to do, and there's so many of them, is just focus on downtown. Everything from water to garbage pickup, and now with the empty buildings, today, within, I think, 4.5 to 5 hours on the corner, on the northwest corner, Danny Kashani and Joseph Sadig's building, within 4.5 hours, not a soul walked into their store. There's nobody. No, mind you, it's Monday, but it is what it is. You know, we have this on Convent Street also. And so a lot of the people, they're up in arms with, and I know we're way in a year, within that year, it's time to do it for the whole city. You know, do it for the whole city, not just downtown. I mean, what they're complaining about, there's just so many gripes, and there's just so many. That's what I'm saying. You hear from one, you hear from the other, and I'm gonna just go talk to the city. I have nothing to do with it. Yeah.
So this, like I said, the way it was propositioned was as like an economic development tool,
I
which we all
understand.
essentially agreed,
Yeah.
because knowing the vacancy
Sure.
of the downtown is not just important when it comes to figuring out if we can get grants,
Mm-hmm.
or if the city can get grants,
Right,
but
right.
also, you know, going back to property values, Laredo Main Street ended up doing the whole research to find out the vacancy
We
rate.
did the whole thing. Yeah.
And I can't remember what it was exactly, I just remember it was 15% lower than what the county was using for their metrics of justifying values in the downtown. So
Mhm.
they actually had our vacancy rate 15% higher
Mhm.
than it truly was.
Right.
So luckily that study came out, and I sent it to anyone I knew,
Right.
because it was a great thing to
So,
use to
right,
protest the
exactly,
values.
right.
That's the value of having that study. Now, the VBO, the Vacant Building Ordinance, I presented it to EDAC, the Economic
Mhm.
Development Advisory
Mhm.
Economic Development Advisory Committee for the city of Laredo,
Right.
to get their opinions on the whole thing. These, once again, the current ordinance is being propositioned as an economic development tool. The overwhelming, every single member during that meeting disagreed that it was, and that it was pretty much useless. They actually tried to initially vote to just strike it off until the city removed the ordinance in its entirety, that it's unfair. I still took the position that I think if it's fixed, it still is an economic development tool. It just needs to be, you know, to find someone that's trying to actively lease a building is not fair and is not economic development. So we all eventually overwhelmingly voted that those teeth need to be removed, and it should go back to its original state, which is just gathering information.
Right.
So that was the vote of the Economic Development Advisory Committee. After that happened, I reached out to the councilwoman for the downtown, Alyssa Cigarroa. She told me she was actively engaging with the assistant city manager, Mr. Valdez, and that they're working on re-amending the ordinance so that it can go back to its original intent. I don't know where that's at. I don't know if legal here knows if there's any updates regarding that. Okay. But I called her right before coming to this meeting to get like soon as I could get an update, and she said that Mr. Valdez is still working on that to take it back to council. So it sounds like the intent is to go back to that ordinance right now, but I don't have any further updates. I think we need to still actively contact not just Ms. Alyssa Cigarroa, because she's against this already. So I think we need to speak to other council members, because we all know it takes 5 votes essentially.
Right.
So that's, I guess, my ask to this group is that, you know, if there's any other council members you guys actively speak to be pushing, to also contact Mr. Valdez and get this ordinance amended, because it seems like
I'll call
there's
I'll
an
call him-
overwhelming.
I'll call him up tomorrow.
There's an overwhelming agreement that obviously this needs to go back, and
Yeah.
it needs to be fixed.
I just, you know, I think that, what's gonna happen, within the next 6 months, there'll definitely be, depending what happens with Mexico though, we're still seeing movement, at least I am, with my people. But as far as the retail end of it, it's not there right now. It's just not happening. One lady that I spoke to last week, she said, I'm closing my doors. I can't wait 6 months, Larry. I said, just hold on, just wait. You don't want an empty building. I told her, I'd rather stay at home. So it'll be another empty building. She's gonna board up her windows, so they don't break them, so we can sell the building, and the windows won't be cool. But it's, I think that, I still believe, it's like believing in Santa Claus. We've been in the downtown for so long, but, I think that we have a diamond in the rough, no two ways about it, regardless of the bigger boys that have put their foot in the door as far as our downtown area, the CBD. I think that down the road, we're gonna get the people, we're gonna get the tourism. It's gonna start happening. It's definitely gonna start happening, but city needs to really do something. It's getting out of hand right now.
One thing that you said that made me think, and I won't take any credit for this, is another property owner that made this, that gave me this idea. But whether it's the vacant building ordinance, having funding, and then
Right.
having the funding source, or it's the bid, is when you talk about these windows and doors being boarded up.
Right.
Another property owner pulled me aside one time and said, we've got all these local artists. They do these competitions and they have these beautiful, why don't we put those on mats? You know, it's not very expensive, it's like $50 a mat, $50 a mat, you know, and you can, you know, someone drew a picture, you know, took a picture of a monarch butterfly and it won an award. All right, well, let's just dupe that 15 times, put it on the plywood, you know, we'll all take our drills and we'll, you know, hang that stuff. You know, the idea being that even if it's boarded up for a period of time, whether it be 2 years or 3 or 4, again, it brings that color, that splash of vibrancy to even a derelict or a closed building.
One of the buildings that you all bought, from us was, we had Webb County Heritage on the southwest corner of Grant and Flores. So we were gonna put everything on the outside. They were afraid to do this because it would all be damaged, and so everything was going in motion. I think her name was Margarita Araiza or something, I don't know what her, anyway. So that was basically the idea that we were gonna use with a lot of our vacant buildings that we had and start putting this up. Then there was another issue. As far as, this is how far back it was gonna go, historical, the hysterical committee wouldn't accept putting like all these banners and what have you on the windows. Maybe now it's a different story, it's only temporary, you know, it's not something that's gonna stay there.
Yeah, it's only on the board.
Right, it's only on the boards, and we could definitely do that. You know, just have, maybe there's a print that we can do on vinyl and put this on there over this board. It looked great, at least for our downtown. You know, there's people, I don't know if you've seen the letters that are going around, there's a guy downtown, he's starting to write about downtown, his name is Ballesteros. A guy named Ballesteros, they forwarded me, I'll forward you the letter that I got, that, the Khomeini sent it to me. And so anyway, your buddy, so anyway, I think that would be a great project. It's a good idea to implement something like that. I think that's really a good, because it's only temporary, you know, it's only temporary. Oh, he's gone. I mean, you should have seen this guy. It was on Friday, Thursday or Friday. He was walking by the Sanborns building, and he decided to just pull out his pants and, you know, that song My Dingling, and he was just walking and pulling wires behind him. I mean, he's a sick person, and they can't do. And he's the guy that breaks our windows also. He broke Mr. Chen's windows on Farragut Street in between Flores and Convent. So, and they can't do anything to it.
So I spoke to a police officer regarding that, and what they're saying is they are arresting them, and the county just immediately releases
He
them.
releases them, yeah. We took them all out for dinner. We took the chief out for dinner. Went through this whole thing, what's going on. I do things on my side also, and just talking to him, it's just like, we had this one guy on Convent Street, and he was living on Convent, and he wouldn't move, and I told the police, I said, why wouldn't you pick this guy up and move him out of here? It's Convent, for God's sake. He says, only if the owner calls. You can call 311. You can tell them, but they will not pick anybody up unless Julian calls and says they're in front of my building, and this is what they're doing. Then they'll go. I didn't know.
Do you have any action item you wanna make on this topic, or is it sort of a general call for action?
Well, I do think if we wanna make this real simple, because I do know there was, I can't remember it now, because it was actually a while ago. But the EDAC motion was to essentially request that city remove, any form of fines for property owners that were either actively trying to, lease or sell their property. So it was just as simple as that. It shows the intent at the end of the day. I don't know if we wanna go to the extent and just say to strike it all. I do still believe that structured correctly, it's very useful information to us to know which buildings are vacant or not, because, you know, from one year to the next, if what the data is showing that vacancy rates went from, you know, 60% vacant to 50, then we know we're having an effect. That's something that's
Right,
important.
that's something, exactly.
Especially when we see the amount of dollars that we're impacting, we can almost measure, hey, you know, if we
Mhm.
increase the amount of spending, like, is that what's really taking us further? And we can measure that.
Right.
So I do believe that the vacant building ordinance, you know, in title, you know.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
It's a good
as long
idea.
as it's
It's a
not.
bad idea. It's a bad idea. When I told Simon, he said, what are you talking about, Larry? I've been trying to lease the damn building for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Can't lease it. It is what it is. Where I was making 40,000 a month, I'm making 5,000 a month. It's not happening. It's not there right now. It's not there. And then to be taxed, and then a double whammy, and then we have to fight with Justin's cousins, you know, as far as valuation is concerned. Well, where do you get these dollar amounts from? You know, we've gone through this before.
So I would ask that the motion be that the city of Laredo, to request the city of Laredo to move any form of fines for any property that are actively trying to lease or sell their building. Because at the end of the day, those property owners are trying to do something.
I'm gonna give you a hug right now for that motion.
How about a second?
That's second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Action item 6C, discussion with possible action regarding call for submissions from artists for potential bid, logo design, and all other matters incident thereto. Inspired by the work that TERS has done with the facade, I was thinking the other day that, you know, we will want the logos for the vests and gear that we have the workers for the business improvement district doing downtown, sort of like they do in El Centro. And I thought, rather, you know, we could all go into a computer and try to design something, seems to be more appropriate to reach out to local artists, kind of keep with the theme of art downtown, and see if we can get some nice logos either from students or other artists in Laredo. My thought being that there isn't just one winner, that, you know, maybe it be one logo, primary logo, maybe some other artwork, either on our website or on our maybe kind of materials that we use. We have sort of a repository of local artists, and even if it's not the winner for the best, that everyone, you know, can be somewhat featured as part of this process. I don't know exactly what it would look like, but the idea being that we do at least go into it, and maybe we can get someone to donate something to attract artists or not, but.
That was the next thing I was gonna say. I was gonna mention to you. Can I speak?
You're welcome to donate to it, absolutely.
Oh, no two ways about it.
Thank you for volunteering.
No two ways about it. So, I think that's a great idea, especially if we get a windfall here with oil and gas and people that invested in gold. You're at 3,200 right now, or Bitcoin and what have you. But you know how they, throughout the nicest plaza that we have, I would say it's San Agustin Plaza. And you see all the benches. Everybody has their names. The who's had their names out there. And we could do this in such a manner that Jaime Uncle donated this, and he has his name comes out, and I said, look at that. Jack Cruthers? The Louisiana what? And donated this particular mural. I'm just saying, don't you think that'd be a good idea?
Yeah, but I don't know that it's kind of going off on a tangent from the logo thing, but I do think it's a good idea.
We can sell. It's something, I'm just saying,
I
money.
wouldn't want to sell the logo to where the logo's sponsored by.
No,
an individual.
No, I think he's saying we can sell something else.
I
Yeah.
agree, but
that
that's what I'm
is
saying.
To fund.
Like I
Let's
said, the
vote.
chairs, the bricks, the streets, what have you.
Well, maybe that's a discussion with the TERS with the current project.
Yeah.
Maybe, are there any interlaced bricks that are going as an improvement? Cobblestone?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's pavers out there.
That could be a funding mechanism, not maybe just for this, but just in general, to garnish some donations. I do think what's important for this, though, is I think going back to the TERS and that monument sign. That monument sign was designed, and the TERS board was eventually gonna vote and state, you know, which design they liked best. And then there was a meeting held, and we all kind of started discussing how this is a perfect opportunity to let the public decide. And in so, not only does the public then connect more to these logos, and monuments, and whatever they may be voting on, but it's also a way to drum up just this understanding that the downtown is coming back. There's things that are in the process. I think that monument sign, I'm not sure if we're gonna get, you know, that much excitement behind the logo, but that monument sign, I think, had on Facebook 40,000 impressions and 11,000 votes.
We sat and we did,
And that wasn't sponsored or anything, they just put it on Facebook and people were sharing it, and they
But
were
didn't we,
excited.
didn't we go to the Center of the Arts and we had meetings on this,
On the monument side?
Yeah, and there was like three different signs that we were looking at, 3 or 4 different, and we all sat down and everybody voted and chose, and then it went out like Facebook and what have you.
Yeah, there was that entire
Yeah.
process too.
Right.
Yes, but I do think, especially with this, especially digitally minded, people are more likely, you know, especially if it's online, a simple survey, they're more likely to voice their opinions versus saying you have to come here to vote. We can do both. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I hope we incorporate this to the general public to also vote.
So I would make a motion to call for submissions from artists for the potential bid logo design with input not only from the board, but from the public via survey or some other solicitation of input.
I second that.
Motion is second, any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I have no announcements presently, does anybody else?
I do. I have, it's like a Mazel Tov, and I thought it was such a great idea. As far as a friend of mine having a baby, and he gave the opportunity his friends in the public to name, having like naming rights, but you had to donate, and it was up to, I mean, it got pretty hefty, and it was enough money for that kid to go to college, okay? It's just a fabulous idea, this friend of mine, San Antonio, great idea. Did I tell you about that one?
Motion to adjourn,
Second.
any opposed? We are adjourned.
It's a great idea. Actually, you can do it all the time.